Hello and welcome. First of all, I'd like to congratulate you on continuing your artistic journey by clicking on this tutorial. Now today we're going to go through the basic theory I use every time I want to draw a head. I will be posting several other tutorials, I'm sure, on drawing things like eyes, mouths, noses, the body. I'm probably going to go through it all on my channel. So, I'm not going to do a long intro or anything because I want you to be able to get good, fast, and not have to go through this tutorial and not have to go through this intro every time you click on this tutorial. But I will be posting more tutorials on my account, so if you would like to, I would very much appreciate it if you would subscribe. Now, without further ado, I'm going to pick up my pencil here, and all you're going to need today is, of course, a pencil, an eraser, and a piece of paper. It does not have to be a sketchbook or anything. The pencil doesn't really have to be all that good. I usually use a pencil I actually bought at like Walmart. I forgot what the brand was, but a mechanical pencil is usually the best you want to go with sketching. Anyway, let's just get right to it. So the very first step I use every time is I'm going to jot down a shape. It will be, what I use every time is usually a circle or it's a cube. I only use a cube when I want to do really good perspective. But today we're going to go through the circle method, I believe, and maybe I'll make another video for that cube method. So the circle does not have to be a perfect circle at all. These are just your guidelines. Okay, now for now, I do have 3 circles here that hopefully show up well on video enough anyway. Today I'm going to go through, I believe, a straight, one of these will be a straight on perspective. One of them will be a 3/4 perspective. And one of them will be a side perspective. Now, I believe I actually want to make this one our straight on perspective for now. And the first thing we're going to want to do is to draw a nose line, is what I'll call it. I don't really know what everyone else calls things, but I know what I call them. So the nose line is basically going to be where your nose is placed. It will follow the curvature of your circle. So we got the straight on perspective, right? Basically no curve to the straight on perspective. Now, step 2, what step are we on? The next step is to draw what I like to call the eye line. I know other people call this the brow line because that's where they like to place their brows. Just like so. And remember, because this is a sketch and these are guidelines, it really does not have to be perfect. You may see videos of them having perfect ones. I never do. So now we got the eye line and the nose line. The eye line also, when in a different perspective, for this one it is going to be flat, but when we do the 3/4 perspective, I'll do that one next. It will follow a curvature of the circle. So you'll have to think a little 3D here, just a little bit. So now that we have our nose and our brow line, eye line, whatever, either one, we're going to want to start to work on the shape of the face. And to do so, essentially with this straight on perspective, we're going to make diagonal-ish lines that are equidistant to our nose line. So you want the nose line basically right in the center. From the eye line, you probably want to go halfway or halfway-ish down onto this area right here. This is roughly where your cheeks or the end of your cheeks would be placed. And then from here, we want to get down here to where the chin will be. So this degree of curve can change, will change, depends on the body type you draw, the art style you use. If you don't have an art style right now, completely fine. Art style, I feel, comes way after learning all the basics, so for now let's focus on that. But this degree of curve will change based on a variety of things, but for now let's just make sure it gets down here to where the chin will be. And you want to make them the degree of curve anyway for this perspective almost or perfectly equal. If it's not perfect, like I said, perfectly fine. So, now we're gonna draw the chin. The chin can be sharp, it can be rounded. I like to make mine rounded. And a little note here, when drawing heads, I'll probably go into more details about this in another video, but when drawing heads, usually in manga and anime, the chin will be sharp or thinner for females, and the chin will be a little bit thicker for males. So, now that we have our face shape, we can start placing the eyes, nose, mouth, that kind of thing, the eyebrows, the hairline, and all this other good stuff. Don't get overwhelmed, stay with me now. But first, I like to draw the nose going ahead. So, the nose, if you're doing this in a manga style, it really depends on what style you're trying to go for. You can do a dot, you can have the nose bridge, like I do. And when drawing the nose bridge, it's important to note that compared to the eyebrows, it will be like in a T shape. So like, kind of like this. And if you're going for a more stylized nose, like let's just jot one out here. Just like this, you can see how the nose bridge does connect to the brow line up here. That's just an important anatomy feature to try to keep in mind for right now. But for now, I don't really place too much emphasis on the nose and the bridge. I just do a little line and a dot. You can place the dot going in a direction if you want to. It doesn't have to be going straight. Next, I usually like to do the eyes, and I'm not sure what kind of eyes we should have. A very good tip for the eyes is width, right? So let's say our eye starts here and starts here and starts here and starts here. This isn't really how I usually draw this, but so we have two eyes. What we want in between and equidistant from the nose, so what we want in this space right here, we want basically the width of a single eye. So we got one eye, two eye, three eye, covering this whole space right here. So now that we know where we're going to start, we can try to outline the basic area of where the eyes are going to end up. Squares, circles, anything you can really use as a guideline should work pretty good. But you want to make sure that the bottom and the top of the eyelids are going to match up. So we're going to start right here. And the eyelids do have a bit of an odd shape at first, but essentially it depends on the emotion your character currently has. So let's say they're really happy. We got big eyelid right here. They're really happy, wow. So it entirely depends on what you're going for, but for now, let's just have that U shape up there. And the eye comes in essentially three parts. When outlining the basic shape, you do have that upper eyelid right here. You got a bit of a side eyelid kind of thing, and then we got the bottom. We're gonna draw the top, the side, and the bottom within this square. And then with the same degree of curvature right here, we essentially want to draw this inverted on the other side within our square that we made earlier. The space between the side of the eye and the edge of the face right here, it's a bit hard to place, but there should be a decent amount of space there, and it should be equal on both sides. Now, if you draw the eyes first, then between the eyes and the chin should be the bottom of the nose. I usually place the nose first, so I know exactly how far the eyes should be apart. But if you do draw the eyes first, you will have an easy placing for the nose, and the measurement should be roughly where these cheeks end actually. You can add details. I like to add little eyelashes down here. And then, this is really important for the eyes, you want to make sure this top eyelash is the thickest of all the eyelashes you have right now. I remember a big mistake I usually did when I started was making this top eyelash one of the thinner ones. It didn't look good, and I'm certainly glad I learned from that mistake, so I can tell you to try to avoid that specific mistake and hopefully learn and grow from that. Now, for eyebrows. Eyebrows are a difficult thing to place. However, you want to take the edge of your eye, try to draw basically a diagonal cone. And when you draw that diagonal cone, that'll basically give you where your eyebrow will be placed. Do the same on this side, make sure it starts, and that'll give you your guideline for your eyebrows. Whether you follow the guideline or not, it's up to you. A big thing about guidelines is you shouldn't stick to them too harshly. They're great at first for learning the anatomy and learning where everything goes, but if you stick too close to the guidelines, your stuff might turn out a little stiff. The goal is to basically use guidelines at first, and then later when you know the anatomy, you know basically where everything's placed, use as little guidelines as possible, I think. I'm not sure how other art YouTubers or anything might react to that, but that's my advice at least. And in between the eyebrows and the top lash, we want to add a fold, and the curvature will follow the top lash. Alright, perfect. So, the mouth. The mouth will be halfway in between the edge of the nose and the chin. Mouths are difficult, but if you can master them, they're one of the most expressive parts of the face, only being outmatched by the eyes, of course. So let's see, what kind of mouth do we want to do? We could go for a smile, I suppose. Smile's always good, although it always looks a little bit creepy when someone's looking straight at you and smiling, but, that's just fine. Now, the edge of the mouths, of course, use this line in the middle to make sure it's equidistant. Doing so, you'll get a pretty good mouth. One of the biggest pieces of advice I have for the mouth is to make the corners darker than the middle, usually. And for the lip, of course, the lip's just going to follow the curvature, but come down a little bit more plumper, I suppose. And we're looking pretty good already. Now, pupils. Pupils can be a hard thing, especially because you might not have a style yet if you're watching this video. If you do have a style and watching this video, you probably know how big, how small, how wide your pupils are. But when you don't have a style, it can be difficult. Personally, I like to draw my pupils not as big as most anime and manga. Roughly that size. So, with this eye and the pupil, essentially you're drawing just an oval. However, this oval is covered up by the eyes at certain parts, covered up by that top lash. If they're looking down, it'll be covered by the bottom lash. I said pupil, didn't I? I meant iris. My bad. So drawing the pupil, the actual pupil, it's just smaller in the middle. You can move your iris, but you don't really move your pupil at all. So should always be in the middle of the iris, of course. Now shine. Shine is a fun thing. Everyone does it differently. What I like to do is I always put shine at the top left of the eye. And then just shade in maybe like half of it. And it usually looks pretty good by them. If I'm using ink, I'll usually do some hatching at the end of this. So let's say that was covered up. Do some hatching right here. And it'll look like it'll fade into it. And then once you have your pupil situated inside your eye on either side, you can do the same with the other one. Just make sure they're basically the same height-wise. Sometimes, if you do draw from the straight perspective, it might look like they're staring into your soul, or look like they're cross-eyed. To avoid this, you want to have them kind of not over here, because over here would be looking to the left if it's at the edge of this eye. At the edge of this eye would be looking to the right, and this eye would be situated a little more to the right. Both eyes, when looking left or right, will have their pupils move in that general direction. But you want to kind of have it almost in the middle if they're looking straight, but not completely in the middle, if that makes sense. Now, we're going to do one more thing with this face today. I'm not going to do any hair in this video. Maybe save that for a different one. But we're going to do the ears. Actually, maybe the neck too. We'll do the neck too. So the ears, a lot of people don't draw the ears like I do. I draw my ears a little odd, if I'm honest. But since we're straight ahead, we're not looking up, we're not looking down, we're just looking straight. The ears are going to be essentially where the top of the eyelash is. You want to go with this round shape right here. And as you're coming down, you want to curve it inwards. And then you want to draw the earlobe like so. Do the same on the other side. Try to make sure the height is matching. And then the inside details. On the inside side, I like to go down, kind of give it a triangular shape here, and then give it that bottom of the ear shape. Roundish, but also not too round. And then for the ear, you might want to look at some reference pictures. It can be confusing. This is just how I simplify it. Of course, as you go on, you probably won't simplify it like I do, which is a-okay. Gonna do the same on the other side now. And here we have a straight-on looking face. We're gonna draw the neck. The neck, in real life, would come from basically right at the ears. However, because this is anime and manga, things can be exaggerated, and exaggeration is a big part of this art style. So, we're gonna move ours inside, but I like to keep it not as thin as others might. Alright, next we have the hairline. The hairline starts at where your ears connect right here, on both sides. It's gonna go past the eyebrows and come up and around. This will be your hairline. We're not going to draw much hair at all, actually. But for now, here's where your hairline will roughly be situated. It will come up and around the eyebrows, not interfering with any of the facial features. And yeah, that's our straightforward face. Next, we'll go over here, and this will be our 3/4 angle face. So with the 3/4 angled face, the line, the nose line, and the eye line will follow a curvature. And following that curvature from top to bottom, and going a little beyond, will result in a bowed nose line. The eye line will start depending on where you're looking. For now, we're just going to try to keep this rough same elevation. And it will go all the way around the sphere. It doesn't really have to go past the sphere. And since we're looking at this angle, the ear on the side over here, the character's left side, will not be visible from where we're looking. However, the other ear, we're going to want to make special guidelines for that one. So, we're going to start roughly where the ear should be. And we're going to make a line going straight up. This one will not follow the curvature. And within the sphere, we're going to draw a circle. And this circle will give the illusion that this side of the head is flat. In a lot of ways, if you look at it like it's kind of a crash test dummy, that might help you. And our ear will kind of be right where these lines intersect. However, I'm not going to draw the ear just yet. I like to draw the side of the face that's facing away first. If we use this as our eye line, the brows are going to be roughly up here. If you look at a human skull, right, I'll draw one, you'll notice there's a brow edge right here from this angle. Since we can see our brow line here, we know that over here, this edge is going to be prevalent. Let's draw a guy. We drew a girl in the first one. Why not draw a guy? So, with guys, the edges are going to be more rough, more sharp. So, following that pattern from the skull earlier, we got our brow line situated above where the eyes are going to be placed. And then we follow the cheeks downward. And it doesn't have to reach the end of where you drew. But I'm going to end mine right here because I know that that's enough space to draw everything we need. Now the jawline should start roughly where the ear is going to be placed, but we'll start at the bottom of the ear. So you could go ahead and draw the ear now. However, I like to save the ear for a lot later on. So I'm going to draw in this lower half the jawline if you want it to be sharp. It will come down until you can draw basically a straight line across. And right there we have a decent jawline. So, like earlier, this T shape does still exist across the brow line. So, since we're watching from this perspective, the T shape will be prevalent in the far side of the face. As the T shape comes down, the nose will come out, and we can draw that right there. And remember, the bottom of this nose should be about halfway between where the eyes will go and the chin. When you're following this tutorial, just make sure you're looking out, and if anything looks weird, try to fix it. Next, we're going to go ahead and do the eyes. The eyes in 3/4 view does change both height and width. Well, maybe not height. That was a little bit of a lie. But the width does change. So, what I mean is, over here we do not have enough space. And as we turn our head this way, the space over here gets shorter and shorter. And so does every feature on this side of the face. The eyes may come out looking a bit thinner on this side. And that's exactly how you want to draw it. And this side over here is thicker. However, do make sure that they are the same height. We can go ahead and add the brow up here. The brow will follow the curve from your nose T bridge thing. You can just add that and then draw the brow right there. As you can see, it comes up right where the brow line edge right here on the skull should be, and put the other brow right there. We're gonna go ahead and draw the eyes again. And this one, we want to make sure that the eye, the upper lid, has a more extreme angle right here, because it's so short width-wise that over here you have time to build the curvature. Over here you don't really have any time to build it at all. You want to make sure it kind of has the same curvature in a shorter time, so naturally that will be a more extreme angle. We got our side eye right here, and then we got our bottom at the edge of the square. Go ahead and add detail if you wish, and then we're going to do the same over here. Remembering that curvature, the side eye, and the bottom lid. Add our details in, and there we have our eyes, well, the outline of our eyes done. We can go ahead and add that brow line from earlier. Follow the same curvature of the eyelids. Now pupils, or irises, sorry, almost made that mistake again, on males in anime manga can be the same size or can be thinner. In my style, I like to draw them a little bit thinner. So I'm gonna do just that. When drawing eyes, a good tip is, or when drawing the inside of the eye, a good tip is have this upper curve go through the upper eyelid. It gives it the, when a person talks, when a person looks, usually the top part of their iris is cut off by that upper eyelid. And with this one over here, like we said earlier, the width is squished. So the iris will also be squished and condensed to be a bit thinner than this one over here. For a 3/4 ankle mouth, like we said earlier, this is the middle of the face right here-ish, right? So the mouth on this side is going to be squished, just like the eye, the eyebrow, and everything else on this side of the face. And on this side, it's going to be a bit longer. So there we are. We have a nice squished side of the mouth over here. And we have it coming longer this way. If you wish to add a lip on this side, it will come down right here. The ear, I like to draw it roughly in half, I suppose, of this. Although this is admittedly a guideline that I have dropped completely at where I am right now in my artistic journey. So I have not drawn this guideline in quite some time. This is one that I think the more you practice, the more easily you'll be able to skip. And let's draw our details like so. Over here, we're going to draw the hairline again. I guess we can go for a bit of a widow's peak. And from here we can also draw the neck. The neck's a bit, I like to add a bit more detail on the neck with males. We're gonna start the neck from this perspective, kinda in this ear area right here. Can be over here, can be over here. But I usually draw more muscular males, I suppose. So I like to draw a lot of veins, the veins coming down right here. And in perspective, those veins will also be coming down here. And then we have an Adam's apple. Lots of good details you can add if you wish. And that's our 3/4 perspective done. Now next up is our side perspective. Side perspective is one I don't use too many guidelines for. It's also one I am a bit ill-experienced with. However, I do still know how to draw them to a good decent bit. Whether you're looking up or down, we can have a nose line running basically horizontally. If you're looking up, it'd be a bit higher. If you're looking down, it'd be a bit lower. But for now, we're doing kind of this medium tier drawing, I suppose. So I'm gonna have it running perfectly horizontally. If you wish to have it ear guideline, we can go ahead and place that now, because this is the side of the head where that is. The ears on this perspective will be squished, but we'll get to that in a moment. So, considering this point right here is our nose line for this one, we are going to have a forehead up here. The forehead is going to come down, follow the curvature of your circle. We have this flatness of this region up here. Right, the skull is flat on this edge, kind of branching off from this brow edge right here. So when it comes down to the nose, it does cave in, roughly where you think the eyes will be, so about right here above the nose line. It's going to come down, and then it's going to go back out, just like so. And then we have the bottom of the nose, which I like to draw a little bit more curved. And from our nose line, I don't really do this too often, but you can use a diagonal to kind of place the jawline with the ear guideline over here. Now we have the lips at the mouth. It's going to come out just like this, a bit curved, and then curving again. It's going to go back in. right here is where the mouth will be placed. So we're gonna, the top lip, right? It's a bit more triangular, and the bottom lip is a bit more round. So we're gonna have that come out right here. As you may be able to tell, if I kept drawing with these guidelines right here, I would end up with a very large chin. This is where that part of don't stick to your guidelines too harshly comes into play. Because I am going to come down and cut it off short. And I'll still go up to where the jawline will be. However, I won't have as big of a chin as if I stuck to the guidelines directly. For this perspective, I like to draw the eyes almost immediately. The eyes are very good for placing everything else on the side perspective. So, the eyes on this perspective, they are going to be very squished. Draw your upper eyelid, a good amount of squish to it. I didn't draw the rectangle this time, but if you wish for me to draw it, I shall. The rectangle would roughly be right here. Remember, it is going to be squished. There's going to be a lot of extra room. I like to draw a good amount of hair right there. But if there is too much room, you can also move the jawline to make it a little bit sharper. Now with the iris on this perspective, there are two ways I see of doing this. You can make it flat and then round right here, or you can make it round but also a bit flat and a lot more round over here. A lot of anime, not too much recently, but some of the older ones would always like convex it in or some kind of thing. I always find that a bit odd of a choice, but I suppose it could work with some styles. It does not work with mine, however, so I'm going to stick to these two options right here. I like to stick with the second one, making it a bit round, and then making this side really round. And of course, your pupil is in the middle of the eye. A good tip is you can place it closer to this to this more inside one. We're gonna add our details like we usually do. I'm gonna go ahead and draw the hairline now. Coming down where the ear is gonna be roughly. We can use the same technique we used earlier with the cone to find where our brow will be. And then for the mouth. For this perspective, you can do a few things with the mouth. As you go, you may notice a few anatomical mistakes. If you do notice it, just feel free to correct it. There's no shame in it. An artist's life is not about perfection, but about covering our mistakes with an eraser and a pencil. So the lip right here, as we can see, the mouth should begin right here along this line, because that's where they converge. Feel free to just kind of still follow that line from where it converges and draw a nice little mouth. And now we are going to draw where our ear is. I would advise a bit of squish. These are wider in comparison. And if I was to add hair, right here would be the perfect place to cover up a lot of my mistakes. And there's a lot of negative space there because we have no hair. But for now, this is fine. For the neck on this perspective, we're gonna come in, follow this jawline, and we want it to kind of come through just like so. It'll be curvy up here and go down. Just like so. And when shading, I like to just do a little hatching there. It helps it look a little bit better. And you can also do a little bit of that right there, a little bit of hatching to show that these veins are still present. I actually forgot to do that on this one as well, and there we are. That is our completed tutorial for the head, where everything goes for now at least. I will be posting eye, nose, mouth, ear, hair tutorials later on, but I wanted to get this basic general tutorial out of the way. I'm not sure if I did too well of a job of describing how everything goes everywhere, but hopefully you learned something, and if you want to see these new tutorials that I'm sure will be coming out very soon, please like, subscribe, all that jazz. I'm not going to keep you for too long. You have a lot of drawing to do, my friend. So, I wish you luck, and if you drew along with me, let me know how it went in the comments. If something needs to be explained a little bit more, let me know that too. Maybe if this tutorial was very bad, I'll post an updated version with a better explanation, most likely, because I understand there are a lot of guidelines that I no longer use, mostly because I kind of know where everything goes. There isn't too much of a need for it. Usually when I draw nowadays, it's just circle, nose, mouth line, that's it, and then I go from there. And I'll definitely be posting another head tutorial because we never covered looking up, looking down, to the side, all that stuff. So we have a lot of tutorials to go over, and I suppose I'll see you next time. See you later.